Welcome into the Cowboys Report. I am Tom Downey. Some overreaction Sunday and injury news following a bonkers you-know-what finish between the Cowboys and the Lions. Let's begin with the injury news. Not great news here on Tyler Smith, the offensive guard. Suffered a full tear of his left plantar fascia against the Detroit Lions. Now, apparently this is actually better than it being a partial tear. And Smith said he thinks he could have gone back in the game. Now, there's adrenaline involved there. I think he's going to wake up feeling a lot worse than he did going to bed. That's how football injuries tend to go in general. The Cowboys are saying he's week to week and won't rule him out yet against the Commanders. I would be pretty shocked from the perspective of him playing next week. That'd be great, but I'd be surprised by it, especially depending on what happens to the Eagles today. Go Cardinals. If they can win or not, who knows? It impacts their chances to make the playoffs, get the division, whatever. So I don't think he plays next week. I think there is a chance he plays in the postseason. I know how the Cowboys are about injuries. They're not an honest bunch of people, so we shall see. Hopefully he doesn't miss much time. Hopefully he's back for the postseason. In his absence will probably be TJ Bass. He's the one who subbed in at left guard when Tyler Smith left the game and, of course, did not return. So hopefully he's going to be okay. We'll keep an eye on that offensive line in general. I thought Bass was fine in his play. Frankly, I actually don't think Tyler Smith was as good as he normally is. You know, Bass is kind of he is who he is, Cowboy replacement. Like for UDFA, way above expectations, not an elite player necessarily. Survive is how you adopt with him in there. The good news is Tyron Smith, who actually allowed a sack, I think, for the first time all season, is still playing it at a pretty solid level. Now, what is the panic level for you guys over the Tyler Smith injury? Scale it for me from 1 to 10. 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. Sound off with your panic level over that injury. On to the overreactions. Overreaction number 1, you got to fire Mike McCarthy. Don't let the win and the final score of that game distract you from this fact. Mike McCarthy was awful last night. That is some of the worst play calling and clock management and decision-making I've seen from a Cowboys coach in my years doing this. He tried to establish the run all game long when it wasn't working, and then when you probably should have just run the ball to kill clock, they're throwing it, and they're doing the same stupid deep shot stuff that they do every chance they get in those scenarios. It doesn't make sense. Just, if you're going to do the slant slam, that's fine. But taking deep shots, I don't get it. Nothing McCarthy did in-game was good enough. Nothing. They're wasting timeouts when they shouldn't need to. They're wasting the timeout on a 2-minute try. It was bad. If Mike calls a game like that again, he will cost you in the postseason. He will cost you, and you will lose. I do not trust Mike McCarthy right now. How can you? You know, if the Lions had won that game, we'd all be yelling and screaming for Mike McCarthy's head on a stake, and I would not blame anyone because he was terrible. You won in spite of your head coach, and you're not going to win the way you want to in the playoffs doing that over and over again. So today's pinned comment is this. Grade Mike McCarthy against the Detroit Lions. A, B, C, D, or F. Sound off for me in the comment section right now, especially if the ad comes here on YouTube. Overreaction number 2. The refs gave the Cowboys a win. I've seen that all over social media. I've never seen worse of an outcry against the officials than when the first ever call goes in the Cowboys' favor. Go figure. And look, Lions fans, they get to be mad. I do not blame them. I would be livid if I was a Lions fan as well. But the refs did not decide that game. They impacted it, and make no mistake, they screwed up the 2-point play. I think it's very clear now we've heard all the explanations from all sides what happened. They announced the wrong guy as eligible. I think the ref went on autopilot. Every time that the Lions have brought in the extra lineman, Dan Skipper, 70, has been the one who has been eligible. Well, they flipped it and made it Taylor Decker. He was lined up legally, by the way, if they call the proper formation, whatever. But this part gets forgotten. The officiating crew told Dallas 70 is eligible. So why would Dallas cover an ineligible man? That totally impacts the way you cover the play. That's why the reaction was reactionary in coverage. Oh, wait a minute, he's going out. Why? That's why Donovan Wilson and Tank Lawrence aren't covering it right, because they're not supposed to cover him. So, yes, the refs screwed up the call, but it also changed the impact and the result of the play beyond knowing what actually would have happened. Because had they announced it properly, the Cowboys would have changed where they covered the defense, right? And oh, by the way, the Lions had 2 more chances. They got the ultimate ball don't lie call with Micah Parsons jumping off sides and then threw it in the dirt on the 3rd play. Also, and thank God they finally mentioned, we've talked about it for 12 hours now, finally mentioned by Schefter, Hendershot didn't trip anybody. The refs blew that call too. Hendershot didn't trip anybody. It was Aiden Hutchinson flails his leg out trying to draw a holding call. Ref thought it was Hendershot. They throw the flag, Hendershot. The game's over. It's 2nd and 4. You're going to get the first down and ice it. So the refs impacted the game significantly. Better team still won. Also, miss me with the, it's rigged BS. Micah Parsons has gone 10.5 games without a holding call. I tried to warn so many people on social media, the refs are terrible. I have been on this train for years. Nobody wants to listen to me until it impacts their team negatively. I've tried to warn you guys, not you Cowboys fans, you all know. The Eagles fans who are going to complain about whatever BS didn't go their way for the first time all year. This is what I'm talking about. It's terrible across the league. Everyone gets screwed. That's what happens, and it's a joke. Now, today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. I like the flex play. You pick 2 out of 3, or 2 to 3, 2 to 6 player stat projections. Got to get 2 out of 3 right, 3 out of 4 right, 4 to 5 right, whatever. More than or less than on their stat projections. I'm already in a great spot. I already got Dak Prescott more than passing yards with ease, by the way. 275.5. He got 3 something, whatever. We'll talk about him more in depth in a little bit. I need then 1 of Cooper Kupp more than receiving yards or Jonathan Taylor less than rushing yards. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for that first deposit match up to $100. Link will be in the comment section and the description of today's show. Overreaction number 3, CeeDee Lamb is a god. That is an unbelievable performance out of your number 1 wide receiver, who I think we can now absolutely put in that same Justin Jefferson, clear-cut wide receiver 1, top 5 tier. Richard Sherman said, Lamb's not a receiver 1. Now he is, right? His numbers this year are among the best in franchise history. In fact, from a receiving or catches and receiving yards perspective, they are the best in franchise history. Yeah, he had the 2 drops, or maybe only blame him for 1 of them. Either way, it's fine. The fumble was bad too. Lamb's played out of his mind. He has been incredible this year. He's an all-pro receiver. You are lucky you have him. And I'll give Mike some more credit. Thank God they force-fed him, because he should get 15 targets every game. There's no reason not to. He's too good. And give him the blank check in the offseason, by the way. It'll probably cost you $30 million. Maybe you should have been more aggressive this offseason trying to pay him. He's put out of his mind. He's worth every cent. Whoever signs last between Jefferson, Chase, and Lamb is going to be the highest paid receiver. Love to beat the Vikings and Bengals to the punch. Who do you think has been the Cowboys MVP this year? Sound off for me in the comment section with your MVP pick right now. I think Lamb works. I think Micah works. I think Tank might have been your MVP against the Lions, but he played out of his mind on defense. But Dak Prescott, absolutely in that conversation. His numbers this year are fantastic. 68.4% completion rate, has now blown by the 4,000 passing yards mark. 242 yards on the ground, 34 total scores, 10 total turnovers. You know, it's funny. That viral quote of Dak saying he wouldn't have 10 interceptions this year, didn't actually say it. Also going to become true. He's got 8 this year. He has played some incredible football. But when it comes to MVP, the stuff out of his control will likely end up preventing him from winning. Wild card quarterbacks, I don't think this is fair, but outside of Peyton Manning, that's how it's been for years now. Wild card quarterbacks don't win the award. Regardless of how good or how valuable or how impactful they've been, they don't typically win it because it's a narrative-based award. Prescott continues to win games and dealing with 0 support in his ground game, which we will discuss more in depth here momentarily. This is, by the way, back-to-back fourth quarter go-ahead drives he's led this team on. He did it against the Dolphins and against the Lions. Defense gave it away against the Dolphins, and then they almost gave it away against the Lions. They held on to win. If the defense gets a forced fumble or whatever, they stop the run, whatever, on that Dolphins game, he might very well still be your betting favorite. Instead, it's probably going to go to the winner of the Dolphins-Ravens game because that team would get the number 1 seed most likely, and it's a narrative-based award, so the quarterback in that game probably wins. That's how it typically goes. But should Dak Prescott be NFL MVP this year? Y for yes, N for no. Go ahead and sound off for me in the comment section right now. Overreaction, and probably got to dump Tony Pollard. He's why the ground game is so bad. Pollard might get to 1,000 yards this year, which I'm a little bit surprised he's going to approach that figure. He's already passed the, of course, 1,000 scrimmage yards marks. And I don't think Pollard played particularly well in that game. I thought the receiving game was actually pretty rough. He has not been nearly good enough so far this season. I'll say this part too. It's not all his fault. How many times was Tony Pollard hit behind the backfield on those plays? Like, how many times has he just had no room to run? I've got the advanced numbers since I can get these pulled up here. Tony Pollard, had 49 yards against the Lions on 19 carries or 16 carries, terrible numbers. Do you know how many yards after contact he had? 46. That is your offensive line. Your run blocking is terrible right now. And the scheme might be even worse. If you have 46 yards after contact, if almost, what is it? I'm going to do the math here and get the actual percentage right here. If you have 94% of your yards after contact, that is an offensive line issue. And that is also why you don't pay backs. With the way the NFL operates these days, you should invest more heavily in the offensive line, which I want to do. I am down to spend a first-round pick on the offensive line again this year. I'm not spending a first-round pick on a back. There's not one worth doing it anyway. I'm not throwing big bucks because 94% of your yards on the ground came after contact. Your running back did his job. He's bad in the passing game, by the way. But you just can't do that, man. So let's continue to grow the Cowboys Report in the 2024 season, or calendar year, I should say. Hit that sub button for more free videos right now.